It was a dark, stormy night when the Wanderer set sail from the bustling port, the waves crashing violently against the side of the ship. The crew, eager and excited for their journey, waved goodbye to their loved ones. The captain stood at the helm, confident and calm, while the sailors busied themselves with final preparations. No one knew that this voyage would be their last. As the night wore on, the storm grew fiercer, the winds howling and the sea roaring louder with each passing hour. Then, just as suddenly as the ship had set sail, it vanished. No wreckage, no debris, not a single sign of distress. The sea had taken it, and no one knew where it went. Days passed, and rumors spread. What had happened to the Wanderer? Where had it gone? Was the storm to blame, or was something more sinister at play? The ocean held its secret, and no one was able to find a trace of the ship. It seemed as though the sea itself had swallowed it whole, leaving only questions behind. Where did the Wanderer go? What could have happened to it? And why was there no trace left of the ship, as if it had never existed? The small town near the coast buzzed with whispers the moment the news of the Wanderer's disappearance spread. Some people said the ship had been swallowed by the sea, taken deep beneath the waves by the powerful storm. Others spoke of something far darker. Could it have been cursed? There were stories of old sailors who warned of a strange, angry force lurking beneath the waves, something that dragged ships into the depths without a trace. The rumors grew like wildfire. Some swore they had seen strange shadows on the horizon, while others believed the sea itself was hiding its dark secrets. The air felt heavy, as if the ocean was holding its breath, waiting to reveal its truth. This time, something about the disappearance felt different, something that no one could explain. Was the Wanderer really lost to the sea? Or was there something more dangerous at work? The whispers continued, and the town couldn't shake the feeling that the truth was much darker than anyone imagined. The families of the missing crew waited for news that never came. Days turned into weeks, and then months, yet no one had answers. No bodies were found, no survivors, only empty promises from the authorities who insisted that the wreckage would be found. But there was nothing. It was as if the ship and its crew had never existed. As time went on, strange things began to happen. The loved ones of the crew members started having dreams, vivid dreams that seemed too real. They saw their family members standing on a deck, looking out over a dark sea, their faces filled with terror. Some dreamed of a voice, whispering from the deep, calling them to the water. Were these just the grieving minds of the families? Or were they signs, warnings from beyond the grave? Can dreams truly reveal the truth? What is the sea trying to tell them? The families couldn't ignore the feeling that something far more sinister was at play. Years passed and the town began to move on. But one day, something strange washed up on the shore. A bottle, cracked and old. Inside was a piece of paper, yellowed with age. The handwriting was unmistakable. It was from the crew of the Wanderer. The message spoke of a storm unlike any they had ever seen, dark, swirling, and violent. But what caught everyone's attention was the last part. A voice calls from the deep. "We cannot escape." The town was shocked. This was the first sign of the ship and the crew in years. But the message was cryptic, almost impossible to understand. Who sent this message? Was it a cruel joke, a trick played by nature itself? Or could it be the last desperate cry for help from the crew? Was this the key to uncovering the truth? Or just another piece of a puzzle that would never be solved? Determined to find out what happened, a group of brave souls, led by a curious historian named John, set out to solve the mystery of the Wanderer. They sailed on a ship, hoping to retrace the lost vessel's path, guided by the cryptic message and the stories of those who had vanished. As they sailed deeper into the open ocean, the atmosphere changed. The sea grew quieter, eerier. Late at night, strange sounds echoed through the ship, creaks and groans as if the wood itself was alive. Whispers seemed to ride the wind, just beyond hearing. The crew couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them, following them. It wasn't just the stormy weather or the ship's age. It felt like the sea itself was alive, hiding its secrets beneath the surface. What dangers lay ahead for them? Would they find the wanderer? Or would they become another part of the endless mystery, lost to the ocean forever? After days of searching, a breakthrough came. The group spotted something in the distance, a ship. As they drew closer, their excitement turned to confusion. It was wrecked, half-sunken, yet strangely well-preserved. No sign of life, no crew, just an empty, abandoned vessel. The ship wasn't the Wanderer. It didn't even look like it had been caught in the storm. It had clearly been here for years, and yet everything about it seemed untouched by time. The wood, the sails, the paint. It was as if it had just appeared out of nowhere, frozen in time. Why was this ship here? How had it survived so long without sinking into the sea? Was this another ship lost to the ocean, or was it somehow connected to the Wanderer? The questions kept growing, and with them, the sense of unease. Was this the first clue or another dead end? What was the true nature of the ocean's secrets, and what would they uncover next? The search for the Wanderer grew more unnerving with each passing day. As the group sailed closer to the area where the ship had disappeared, the ocean itself seemed to change. The waters grew colder, an unnatural chill that seemed to seep into their bones. The sky, once clear, became thick with clouds, and the sea darkened, as if something deep beneath was watching them. At night, strange shadows began to move beneath the water's surface, glimpses of something large and shifting, almost alive. The crew couldn't tell if it was the wind, the storm, or something else entirely, but it felt as though something was lurking just beneath the surface, waiting. The shadows darted too quickly to be fish or debris. It was almost as if the ocean itself had a life of its own. The eerie feeling grew stronger. What could be hidden in these dark waters? Was the ocean hiding something? What ancient secrets lay beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered? The closer they got, the more it felt like the sea was holding its breath, waiting for the group to discover what lay below. One foggy night, as the crew drifted into the heart of the search, something strange happened. In the distance, far beyond the reach of their lanterns, faint lights appeared on the horizon. They flickered and danced like stars in the water, moving in ways that didn't make sense, too low to be ships, yet too bright to be a natural phenomenon. The group immediately set course toward the lights, thinking they had finally found a clue. But as they got closer, something strange occurred. The lights began to flicker wildly, as though they were being extinguished by an invisible hand. Before the crew could react, the lights vanished entirely, leaving only an eerie silence in their wake. No explanation. No reason for the disappearance. Only the cold, empty sea around them. What had they seen? Could these lights have been a sign of the Wanderer, or something far more dangerous? The silence that followed felt like a warning. As they continued their journey, growing more frustrated and fearful, the group encountered an old fisherman along the coast. He had a weathered, haunted look in his eyes, his voice shaky as he spoke. He claimed to have seen the Wanderer, but only at night, when the sea was at its most terrifying. His story was chilling. The fisherman told them that the ship never truly sank. It was trapped, lost in some unnatural realm, and it came back only in the darkest hours when the ocean was at its most restless. He warned them to turn back. Those who seek the Wanderer, he said, his voice trembling, are never seen again. But the group, desperate for answers, refused to heed the warning. They pressed on, ignoring the fisherman's fearful gaze. What did he know that they didn't? Why was he so afraid to speak about it? Was it fear of the sea, or something far worse? The crew couldn't shake the feeling that this fisherman knew more than he was letting on. Finally, after days of searching, the group uncovered something that seemed to hold the answers they had been seeking. An ancient diary, weathered by time but still legible. It belonged to the captain of the Wanderer. The words inside were chilling. The captain wrote of an ancient curse, a dark force bound to the sea itself, something that called to ships, dragging them down into the depths. The curse was not just a superstition, it was real, an evil presence that had claimed many vessels over the years, including the Wanderer. The captain spoke of hearing voices from the deep, whispers that beckoned them closer, pulling them toward an unknown fate. As the group read the final pages of the diary, the sea around them began to react. The waves grew taller, the wind picked up, and the sky darkened, as if the ocean was angered by the words. The feeling of being watched intensified, the air thick with a sense of dread. Was this curse real? Or just an old legend meant to scare sailors away? Either way, the sea was growing more violent by the second. Without warning, a storm broke out, a furious, violent tempest that seemed to come from nowhere. The crew scrambled to secure the ship as waves crashed against them, taller than any they had ever seen. The winds howled with a deafening fury, and the sea churned, as though it were alive, angry at the intrusion. It felt as though the storm had a mind of its own, deliberately pushing them into dangerous waters. The group fought to keep control of the ship, but it felt like nature itself was determined to stop them from finding the truth. The crew was terrified, but they pressed on, knowing that turning back now would mean they'd never uncover the secret of the Wanderer. Could the storm be the work of the curse? Was this nature's way of warning them to leave? Or was it something worse, a force greater than they could comprehend? The group had no choice but to weather the storm, hoping to survive long enough to find the answers they so desperately sought. When the storm finally passed, the sea fell eerily still, and there, on the horizon, appeared the Wanderer. But it wasn't the ship they had expected to find. It was darker, more decayed, its sails torn and its wood blackened by time. It moved slowly, drifting through the water with an unsettling grace, as if it were a ghost ship, alive, but not truly living. The crew approached cautiously, trying to board the ship, but as they neared, the Wanderer seemed to fade away. It was there one moment and gone the next, vanishing into the fog like a shadow slipping through their fingers. All that remained were whispers in the wind, a soft, mournful sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. What had happened to the ship? Had it truly returned from the depths? Was it real, or was it a spirit trapped in time, doomed to sail forever on an endless loop? The crew couldn't say. They were left with more questions than answers, and the whispers that echoed in their ears were the only clue they had. As the group sailed back to shore, relieved to be leaving the cursed waters behind, the unthinkable happened. One by one, the crew members began to disappear. It started with the historian, then the captain, and soon others followed. No sign of struggle, no trace of where they went, just empty spaces where they once stood. The remaining crew tried to ignore the eerie feeling that something was still watching them, but it was impossible to escape. The whispers, the same ones they had heard on the Wanderer, continued to haunt them. They were the last to leave the cursed sea, but the curse had followed them home. Some secrets, it seemed, were meant to remain undisturbed. The mystery of the Wanderer had not ended. It had only just begun. Would the curse continue to claim more victims, or had the ship's story finally come to a close? The ocean, as always, remained silent, its secrets still buried deep beneath the waves.